Hello, everybody. Jeff the Prosperous here, and I'm here with my good friend, Anthony Haydock. You want to say hi, Anthony?
How's it going, everybody?
And welcome, everybody, to episode number 5 of Tuesday Night Live. And we're here on Blessings on My Journey. And today is Tuesday, July the 9th, 2024. And like I said, this is episode 5. Tonight's topic is my chemotherapy and naturopath with stage 4 cancer. If you've been following along the last 5 Tuesday nights, I've been covering my regimen. The purpose of these Tuesday nights is to cover my regimen. And I've had Anthony on. This is Anthony's 4th time on. He's been on for the first 3 episodes. Last week, I gave Anthony the night off, and he listened to me talk to my osteopath. But he's back on tonight. And also, I'm hoping that our good friend, medicine man, Dwight will join us later on, probably around 9:30, 9:40 p.m. Eastern. It's 9 p.m. It's just after 9 p.m. Eastern. I'm coming to you from Ontario, Canada. Anthony, where are you from?
I'm coming from Port Angeles, Washington. So it's 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, my time.
Awesome. Port Angeles, Washington. I just want to say welcome to everybody listening from the U.S., from Canada, from Ontario. I know I have a lot of subscribers from Mexico, Australia, the UK, just everybody around the world listening. I want to welcome everybody. I'm just going to, before we get going here tonight, I'm just going to share my screen for a few things. Here, I just want to share right now, this is the Tuesday Night Lives that we've been doing. And as you can see, this is a playlist from Blessings on My Journey, the channel that you're watching tonight. The first episode was my supplements with stage 4 cancer. The second episode was my diet with stage 4 cancer. The third episode was my fasting and exercise with stage 4 cancer. The fourth episode last week, my osteopath treatment with stage 4 cancer. And we were very fortunate to listen to Joe Rotella, my osteopath. Here we are tonight, my chemotherapy and naturopath. Next week, and I'm going to see if I can share that. Peter, can you see that live with Ken D. Berry? It got a thumbs up from him. No, he didn't. He can't see that. So just give me 1 second here. You're only seeing this. Give me 1 second. I have to reshare. Share one more thing. Next Tuesday, it's a live with Dr. Ken D. Berry, and the title is going to change down there. It says Carnivore Cancer with Dr. Ken D. Berry, but it's going to be my YouTube doctors featuring, my YouTube doctors with stage 4 cancer, and it's going to be featuring Dr. Ken D. Berry, the world famous Ken D. Berry, the medical doctor, the carnivore. He's quite famous in the YouTube world. He's one of those doctors I've been following for the past 2 years. Anthony, I know you listen to Ken D. Berry too, don't you?
Oh, yeah, daily when I can.
That's awesome. Along with Dr. Anthony Shafee, Dr. Eric Berg, Dr. Sean Baker, Dr. Tony Hampton. The list goes on and on and on of these great people that are professional doctors, and they're educating the world about health and nutrition. But anyways, that's next week, and I'll come back to you here. Stop sharing my screen. Excellent. So tonight's topic is chemotherapy and naturopath with having stage 4 cancer. And I'm just going to quickly, to anybody new tuning in tonight, I'm going to introduce myself quickly, and then I'm going to pass it off to my good friend Anthony. Anthony is my Tuesday night friend. I don't know. I felt a little lonely last week without you, Anthony. So we're gonna, and I'm also sorry. I want to say one more thing. I'm gonna feel lonely next week. I'm gonna be with Ken D. Berry, and I'm really excited about that. But you actually, and I'm gonna advertise this one too. Next week, you got invited to go on with Carrie Mann. Did you not, Anthony?
Yes, I'm excited. So on the 16th, I go on with Carrie. I'm not sure when he's gonna have it uploaded as far as published, but I'm excited to go on and get interviewed by him and get my story through his channel too.
So it works out perfect. My Tuesday Night Live, I'm with Kendi Berry, Dr. Kendi Berry, and Anthony's doing a pre-record with Carrie Mann from Homestead How. If I'm pretty sure probably most people tuning in and listening tonight know who Carrie Mann is. He is an absolute fabulous YouTuber. He's my best friend on YouTube. He's the one that connected me to all the doctors when I first started this YouTube journey. So Carrie Mann is awesome to listen to. I can listen to his channel all day long. And Anthony, you're really going to enjoy that next Tuesday. And I can't wait to see that episode when it comes out.
Like a dream come true.
Absolutely. All right. So here we go. Tonight is my chemotherapy once again and Naturopath. But I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Jeff the Prosperous, and I have stage 4 cancer. It's stage 4 colon cancer that has metastasized, and it's metastasized to the liver. My liver is fully covered. A few other spots, but they come and go. Not to worry about a few other spots. They're very tiny, and most of the time they're not even there. But my liver is fully covered. I'm inoperable. I'm incurable. I'm supposed to be terminally ill, palliative. Every name in the book, my oncologist fired at me when I was diagnosed back in April of 2022. So when I got diagnosed, April 2022, I asked my liver specialist and my colon specialist, if I do no treatment, no chemo, how long do I have to live? And they told me nobody can tell you how long you have to live, Anthony. That was one good answer. But they also said that's right. If they were guessing with no treatment, a couple months. This is back in April 2022. I started chemo, which is tonight's topic. I started chemo about a month later, the end of May 2022. And I've been doing chemo this entire time with some breaks. So from May 2022 all the way to date. And we're going to talk about all the different chemo therapies that I've gone through. But I've built quite the regimen, and that's what Tuesday Night Lives is all about. It's about my regimen that I've had a lot of success with. Because also I think Dr. Sean Baker, when he interviewed me, he was one of the first doctors that interviewed me. He said, Jeff, if you look up what you have, they say with good treatment, 9 to 12 months, most people live. Okay, so here I am about 26 months in, and I'm feeling great. And I'm actually starting to feel better and better each day. It helps when you surround yourself with the right people. It helps when you surround yourself with people like my friend Anthony every Tuesday night. It helps when you surround yourself with people like Carrie Mann, with family members that love you. My 2 sons, people have gotten to know my 2 sons, Peter and Dante, my wife, Martha, and family and friends that help you along your journey. It really helps. Before I pass it on to Anthony, actually, no, sorry, I am going to pass it on to Anthony. And then I want to share something about where I was tonight. I was at a carnivore meetup, but we'll get back to that in a few moments. But I just want to say tonight is about chemotherapy and naturopath, but every Tuesday night is about a piece of my regimen. I showed you the first 4 or 5 episodes. Next week, it's going to be my YouTube doctors featuring Kendi Berry. But that's about it. Anthony, it's your turn to introduce yourself and tell us what type of cancer you have and so forth.
Sounds good, Jeff. Thanks. Hey, everybody. My name's Anthony Hayduck. I'm a 32-year-old male, and I was diagnosed on my 31st birthday with stage 4 GIST cancer. GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. I went in for surgery. They flayed me open, and I lost about a quarter to a third of my stomach and intestines back in middle of 2022, and a tumor about the size of a softball. At that time, the tumor or the disease had already spread to the liver. They didn't know what it was. It came back as GIST. And like what Jeff said, luckily doctors can't tell you your exact timeline. But when the biopsy came back as GIST, I went to my local cancer center. I hopped on treatment right away because they told me I had about 6 months to live if I didn't hop on treatment because it had gone so long untreated. Well, I did 130 days of one type of treatment, hopped on a second type of treatment, and both treatments weren't successful. We'll talk about that in the near future. But I've been now 15 or 16 months now, no treatment. I think I quit treatment February 1st or January 31st of 2023. So we're 16 months now, no treatment, and having pretty good success controlling my illness with the natural approach. And so I think that's a pretty good introduction for now. Don't want to give too much away.
No, that was great, Anthony. And 15 months without chemotherapy treatment. So that's pretty awesome. So we have different. Anthony and I become friends. It's sad because we both have stage 4 cancer, and that's how we became friends. But we're very similar in terms of our mindset and our positive attitude and our outlook on life. But you've put away with chemotherapy, and you had a little bit of a different experience than I've had with chemotherapy with the 2 lines that you've tried. And we're going to talk about that in this episode coming up. But I just want to share from previous episodes, the one thing that Anthony and I do have in common is that we share the same diet, and we've taken on the carnivore diet, right, Anthony? And it really makes us feel the best. And I'm
eating right now.
That's awesome. I know it's dinner time there. I just came from dinner, and that's what I wanted to share right now. So every other Tuesday, I do a carnivore meetup here in my hometown in Brantford, Ontario. And we different establishments. We started at a Starbucks. We went to a Harvey's. Now we're at A&W. And we were there tonight. So I just want to quickly just share a photo. And I want to give a shout out to the people that I was there with. I'm just going to share my entire screen. And Peter's helping me through this. There it is. Peter, can you see that? Thumbs up. We're good. Excellent. So there's the people that I was there with tonight. And we actually had 5 new people tonight. And there was a few people that normally come that weren't there. So this little carnivore meetup is growing. And just behind my head there, the new couple, Scott and who was the other one? Anna? Scott and Anna, they're new. Okay. And Kathy, she is way at the back there with her hands up. She was also new. And I just wanted to give a shout out to them because it was super awesome meeting them tonight. I just want to check their names. Yes, Anna and Scott. Sorry, guys, but Anna and Scott, super awesome to meet you. And Kathy, awesome to meet you. And I got my regulars out there, Janice, Denise, Kyler, a whole bunch of people. There's Peter and Dante. Okay. There's my little friend Mia in there, and she brought her little brother tonight. We're there every other Tuesday, and we're sharing our stories, our success stories, some things that we're struggling with, just life in general, and how good we feel on the carnivore diet and things and how it's changing our lives. So in 2 weeks from now, we've decided we're going to go outside, and we're going to move away from my hometown. We're going to go to Hamilton, Ontario. We're going to go, Anthony, I've been telling you, I've been doing those exercise stairs outside, the stairs. Yeah, we're gonna. There's a little park at the top of the stairs. We're gonna meet there. We're gonna bring outdoor chairs. I'm gonna ask anybody that wants to come to bring some patties or bring some meat, or bring whatever you eat there. And we're not just saying carnivores. If a vegetarian or vegan wants to show up, they could show up. That'd be very interesting to have one of them show up. But bring a chair, bring some food, and maybe before or after we might go up and down the stairs and get some exercise. So I just wanted to share that. I'm going to come back to us, stop sharing my screen, and here we are. So
I want to make a quick point real quick.
Sure.
It doesn't matter what food group you eat, as far as diet, exercise is still important. That's why I'm glad you invited anybody to come.
Well, that's right. And it doesn't matter what food group, that's right. And exercise is huge. And this is another thing that, Anthony, maybe you can agree with me on this. It's pretty sad the way us humans have been living, where we base everything around food all the time, right? We get enjoyment around food, where we can get, life should be about the things we're doing, exercising, going out and playing pickleball with your spouse, going for a walk. That's what life should be really about, enjoying it. Your enjoyment shouldn't come from just food in general. So that's why I'm sneaking in that physical activity to this group. And us carnivores, we do like to eat, though. I'm not saying food is not important. And I'm sure it doesn't matter what diet you're on, you like to eat. But we really enjoy it because it's been making myself feel optimal. Anthony, I know that the carnivore diet's been making you feel optimal. So, it's a good group. And even if you're thinking about becoming carnivore, like there was one lady in there, her name's Pat. Pat, if you're listening, shout out to you. She was carnivore a while ago. She quit, but she's trying to get back at it because she felt really good. So these meetups are great. And like I said, it's about surrounding yourself with good people, right? Like I'm with Anthony tonight. Your good friends, your family members. And these little groups and these little meetups are great because, you can relate to others and they can help you along your journey, whatever journey you're on. So I just wanted to, give a shout out to that group I was meeting tonight. And I hope everybody is doing well. Anyways, we're going to move on here and we're going to start talking about chemotherapy. So I'm going to go first, Anthony, and I'm going to talk about the lines of chemo that I was on, that I've been on, sorry. And I've been doing chemo. I started May 2022, and I'm currently still on chemo. This is not my chemo week. I have chemo every other week. I had chemo last week and I have chemo next Wednesday. So on Wednesdays is my chemos. I've had 47 rounds of chemo in over 2 years. So, and I've had 3 lines. I'm just going to pop up my first line. My first line of chemo is Fall Fury. And I was on this type of chemo from May 2022 to May 2023. I had a lot of success with this Fall Fury. And I just want to quickly show you the definition of Fall Fury. This chemotherapy is a combination. It contains the drugs leucovorin calcium, which is more of like a vitamin. It's a folinic acid. The next one is, I'm probably going to butcher this name, fluorouracil, and it's also known as 5-FU. And then there's irinotecan. 3 ingredients that make up Fall Fury, and basically that middle ingredient there, also known as 5-FU, that is a bottle that I left with. So I would get the vitamin, the leucovorin, I would get the irinotecan at the hospital, and I would spend about 3 or 4 hours getting that. And then I would leave with a 46-hour drip, the 5-FU, and I would have that on till Friday. So I did that for a full year, and I actually had a lot of success with that. I had 5 scans in that year, and every single scan I had shrinkage. All the tumors were shrinking. Actually, by the 4th and 5th scan, my oncologist, he was quite shocked that there was still shrinkage happening, because he says normally there's shrinkage the first, it goes stable, 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 then it stops working. So I had a lot of success, but the thing is, you can get symptoms from Fall Fury. That was my first line. You can get digestive problems, constipation, diarrhea, nausea, fatigue, just low energy levels. But after my 3rd round of it, I started the carnivore diet. I started fasting, my 3-day fast, and I built up to 5-day fast. My symptoms started to dissipate, and I was having success because of my carnivore diet, my fasting, my supplements. I was exercising a lot. I was volunteering at the school that I used to teach at and stuff like that. So I had success with that. That was my first line. Second line, FOLFOX. And by the way, before I went to FOLFOX, what ended up happening, the first line, I went from May 2022 to May 2023. I asked for a break, a 3-month break, because it was coming up on my first summer of my journey, and I kind of wanted to enjoy it with the family. So I asked for a break. I wasn't granted a break. I got asked for a break. And by the way, I just want to make this clear to everybody listening. Every cancer is different, and every treatment is different. Anthony's going to tell a story later about his treatment, and his form of chemo that he was taking was even different than the form of chemo that I was taking. So some people, like, people that have breast cancer, brain cancer, lung cancer, they have different types of chemo. They also have different types of protocol in terms of how long they're taking it for. With me, in terms of me being terminally ill and palliative, when people ask me, how many rounds of chemo do you have to have, Jeff? I say forever, till the day I'm dead, because that's what I'm told by my oncologist, right? It's just going to maintain my quality of life. until it's end of life, because that's what stage 4 cancer is. That's what terminal cancer is. It's end of life cancer, right? It's sad to say, but that's how they define it. So anyways, after having a 3-month break, I had June, July, August off of 2023. My father got sick and he was in the hospital. And then middle of September, my father passed away just when I was about to go back to chemo. I had planned to go back to chemo. So when I went back to chemo, okay, I was on full fury for a few months, but then they noticed progression. Probably a little bit from my break, the stress of my dad dying, maybe me taking a break from a lot of things like my supplements, my diet, maybe a little bit of keto treats here and there that summer. Okay. So we had to switch to a second line, which was FOLFOX. Okay. So FOLFOX, so this was probably late fall of 2023. We switched to my second line. FOLFOX, this is also a combination drug. So it's, again, that folinic acid, which is kind of the vitamin bag, then fluorouracil, which is 5-FU. That's the easier way to say it, 5-FU. And then there's oxyalliplatin. So the 5-FU, the middle ingredient there, is the one I get. It's the bottle, 46 hours. So I was still getting that bottle, the same as Full Fury, but instead of irinotecan, they put this oxyalliplatin in. And oxyalliplatin, anybody that had FOLFOX will tell you, the neuropathy in your fingers and toes is horrible. Okay, so especially in the cold. So I just started using FOLFOX the fall of 2023. I think it was around November, December, January, February. Then in March, I stopped it because I went to Italy, and this is just this past March. Okay, so I use it for about 5-6 months, but the coldest time of the year. So the neuropathy was really, really bad. That was one of the symptoms that I was getting from FOLFOX. Now, I'll talk about that, especially if there's questions in the chat later. How do you manage the neuropathy? Okay, I'll talk about that later, but it was very difficult and very tough. And some of that neuropathy, if you're on FOLFOX for too long, you can have neuropathy for the rest of your life. Okay, so I'm off of it now, and I'm glad I'm off of it, because what ended up happening was I had to switch off of it. I went to Italy middle of March. I've mentioned before, my son was playing professional soccer out there in Italy for 1 month. So I went to Italy. It was a dream trip, me and my son. We went from middle of March to the middle of April. We were there over Easter, this past Easter. I came back and I had a lot of progression, a lot of growth. So, right, because I got a scan right away when I came back from Italy. And my confession was, when I was in Italy, I stopped a lot of things, including my strict carnivore diet. Okay. And that is the thing that I truly believe really caused me problems, caused me digestive problems, and caused progression of those tumors. So the FOLFOX, we had to switch. My doctor said right away, too much progression. So we switched to a third line. Now, this third line is the cetuximab and irinotecan. That word irinotecan looks familiar to everybody listening, if you've been listening. Okay, Anthony, I don't expect you've been listening because you got to eat your dinner. So, but if you were, that irinotecan, that was one of the ingredients in my first line of chemo, okay, that I did for a full year. So that's a positive mindset for me. Hey, I'm getting that same ingredient that I had 5 shrinkages in a row, okay? But that cetuximab is not chemo. It's actually, I'm going to bring it up here. And by the way, I've been on this now for 7 rounds. I'm going on my 8th next week, okay? And cetuximab, I'm just going to bring it up here, and irinotecan. Okay, there's the epidermal growth factor receptor that's called EGFR, which participates in signaling pathways that are deregulated in cancer cells, commonly appears in colon cancer, which I have, okay? This is what cetuximab is. It's a monoclonal antibody that specifically blocks, so it's an antibody medicine that blocks the EGFR, the growth factor, okay? So it's not as toxic. It targets those cancer cells. It's an antibody medicine that targets those cancer cells. Sounds pretty promising, okay? So I get it. It's going at those cancer cells, but the sad thing is I still get chemo, the toxicity of the irinotecan, okay? So I get this bi-weekly, just like all my other cancer, my line 1 and my line 2, same thing. It's bi-weekly cetuximab and irinotecan as a third line therapy in patients with advanced colorectal cancer after failure to irinotecan and oxyplatin and 5-FU. Now, here's the thing. After failure, medicine man Dwight, he thinks, my oncologist, he always said, hey, did they maybe take you off line 1 a little too early? Did they take you off line 2 a little too early? Because there's things that may have affected it. He doesn't really think that the drug stopped working. But anyways, irinotecan I had success with, so I'm glad I'm back on it. The cetuximab, the problem with the cetuximab, and Anthony, I know I shared this with you and I shared this with the world, it gives you horrible skin toxicity, okay? And I'm a little bit red right now, but they warned me about this when I got back from Italy, and they were switching me to this cetuximab, and they said, it's gonna cause skin toxicity, it's gonna cause a rash, here are some antibiotics. So my oncologist said I have to take antibiotics in the morning and at night, okay? Which is totally against what I believe in, because I just want medicine at the hospital. I don't want to have to take antibiotics. I want to do my metabolic therapy that I've created, okay, in terms of attacking those damaged mitochondria and making new mitochondria, making healthier mitochondria, taking out all those damaged cells, trying my best to do my metabolic therapy. Now I have to take an antibiotic. I had a problem with that, okay? So anyways, I left there after the first round of it, and I told my oncologist I'm not going to take it. He says, if you get the rash, I suggest start taking it. And I also got creams too, steroid cream and antibiotic creams. But anyways, 5 days in after the first treatment, I was covered in pimples. And by the way, the skin toxicity, the rash, it's an acne rash. So I looked like the worst teenager going through puberty in terms of, like, honestly, if I just squeeze my cheek, a whole bunch of acne pus would come out. It would be all over my chest, all over my back. I was so embarrassed. So not only did I come back from Italy with progression, causing myself damage, okay, I switched to my third line. I got covered in a rash. I was kind of really down, really feeling down, okay? So I kind of hid for a while. But anyways, I got back on my horse in terms of my regimen. And you know that, Anthony, I got back to my strict carnivore diet, my fasting, my exercise, my supplements. I upped my osteopath to twice a week. I'm back seeing my naturopath with hyperthermia. I've cut out the vitamin C for now, but we'll talk about that later. And there's also something we're going to talk about, mistletoe, later as well, which I'm not doing. I'm just doing hyperthermia. I've upped my hyperbaric oxygen chamber. I'm going there twice a week, okay? Like I said, my supplements. Oh, fembendazole is another thing I'm taking, which I mentioned in my supplements episode, which I'm huge on. So I'm having success now with my third line. And it's not just my third line, it's my regimen, I think. Okay, that's making my third line work better. So when I got back from Italy, it was April 11th, or April 10th. I started this cetuximab and irinotecan April 11th. May 30th, I had a scan. My oncologist normally doesn't do this. He normally tells me the next time I go in for chemo. He called me the day of my scan to tell me great news that I've had drastic shrinkage. Drastic, he called it. All the tumors, okay? So I'm having success right now. And I know there's going to be people listening. We've got about 28 people in right now. And sometimes we get up to about 50 or 60 people each night listening. But yeah, I know there's going to be some people, and I haven't even looked at who's listening because I have a bunch of banners here that I'm clicking on, but I know Peter's starring them off in the background. And I'm sure the same people, and there's people like Sandra from One Hope for All, and there's other people that are always on here that really believe in my regimen. And they always ask me, Jeff, when are you going to go off chemo? When are you going to go off chemo? Because there is people having success not on chemo, and that people that have a regimen like mine in terms of fighting it naturally. Okay. So we'll talk about that later, because I think Anthony now is going to share his story of chemo. And then we're going to discuss and look at some questions about chemo that we're getting from the audience. And we can discuss how different Anthony and our experiences have been with chemotherapy. So your turn, Anthony.
Well, right off the get-go, I want to mention during the 99% of Jeff's chemo treatment periods, he's had the carnivore diet, aiding him and aiding his body. During my chemo periods, I did whatever the doctors told me. I didn't know about the carnivore diet. I was told nutrition is nutrition. Whatever stays in your body body's good, whatever doesn't stay in your body, don't eat it. So I had, the standard American diet, and whatever stayed in, whatever didn't. Far as my line of treatment, my first line of treatment was called sunitinib malatate. I had to actually take a pill every day for 130 days. Straight was my line of therapy. The pill that I took was pill number 2 or 3 on the list. I think there's like 7 or 8 different lines of therapies for just cancer, and they automatically skipped the first 2 lines of therapy due to my mutations that I have, because I have 2 different types of mutations with my illness. One's SDHA deficient, and one is I believe it's called wild type, which means it's inherited through my DNA. But treatment wasn't fun with that first line of therapy. I did it for 130 days, a pill a day at home every morning. And the side effects weren't any fun to me. Really bad neuropathy, hair loss. I didn't go bald, but my hair definitely got thinner than it was. My hair color changed, skin color changed, pigmentations, acne, energy levels, of course, dropped dramatically. It got to the point during the very end of my first round of, I call it my first round. I mean, there's 130 days consistently of treatment. Towards the end, I even stopped driving, and my parents were driving me around just because I didn't have the energy levels or the strength to do stuff on my own anymore, just because the inflammation and pain was so bad everywhere. So I quit that first line of therapy January 31st, 2023, when I got my second PET scan back stating my cancer had spread throughout the liver, multiplied, and got bigger in size during treatment period. So that's when I asked my oncologist, what's the point of me even being on this line of therapy if I'm getting worse? So that's when we agreed to pull myself off treatment for the time being, and we would come back at it a second time with a secondary line of therapy once we brainstormed. Because at that time, I just had a regular oncologist. It wasn't a specialist with my type of cancer. So then I got a specialist for just specialty, and they suggested me to hop on a pill or type of therapy called Stivarga or Recrofib. It's a once a daily oral prescription anti-cancer medication approved by the FDA for people with MCRC, GIST, and HCC. And I only did Stivarga for 3 days just because the side effects were so bad in those first 3 days as far as pain levels. I didn't want to deal with it, and that wasn't quality of life to me. So after 3 days of taking the pills, I completely stopped taking them and told the doctors I wanted to try it on my own with different dieting and natural regimens. And they were kind of shocked that I wanted to quit treatment to try it on my own, but they also couldn't stop me. And then they encouraged me to try to figure it out on my own. And here we are 16 months later doing pretty well on my own. I'm grateful for the way treatment was and made stuff worse, and I'm grateful to quit treatment, but at the same time, I would have been interested to know what my type of cancer would have done with treatment if I knew about the carnivore diet back then too. Maybe treatment could have assisted it, maybe it wouldn't have. Kind of hard to find that out unless I get brave enough to hat back on. But other than that, it's the only types of treatment I've been on is the 2. They suggested more, and I have some pretty strong beliefs and reasons why I don't want to get back on treatment, just because it limits other options later on in life.
Absolutely. Sounds good, Anthony. Thank you for sharing. The thing I'm just going to go back on, you mentioned right from the start that you went through, how many months of chemotherapy? I want you to say, how many months did you do with the pill?
It's 130 days for the first
130.
line of therapy.
Yeah.
And so what's that?
And
4 months and 10 days.
yeah. Yes.
And then the second therapy was only for 3 days. But I had
Absolutely.
a 2-month break between the therapies.
2-month break between therapies. So for both therapies, this just reminded me of something, Anthony, and it's something that I feel really horrible about when I see it. You said, Jeff, you've been on the carnivore diet along with my regimen. Okay. You've been on the carnivore diet along with my rest of my regimen, my fasting, my exercise, my supplements, everything. The whole time, pretty much the whole time. I said the first 3 rounds, I've done 47 rounds. So maybe the first 3 rounds I wasn't, and I felt horrible. But you're absolutely right, Anthony. And I feel horrible every time I go into chemo and I see, and everybody can imagine what a chemo room looks like, right? I know, Anthony, you were taking a pill, right? But at the chemo room at the hospital, it's a bunch of chairs in a room. We're all hooked up to IVs in our ports or our PICC lines, and we're receiving the treatment. And I look at these people, and some of them are, and they're pulling out food. They're pulling out, in Canada, we have this place called Tim Hortons. It's a coffee shop. They sell wraps. They sell deep fried potatoes. They sell donuts. They sell muffins. People are pulling them out of their little lunch bags and eating while they're eating that stuff. There's the Ensure fridge at my chemo clinic. Ensure, those bottles of meal replacements that are just pumped full of sugar, bad sugar and carbs. Okay. The volunteers, they're wonderful people, where they come around offering you sugary pops or cookies. Okay. So you did mention, Anthony, that, your oncologist, said, just eat the way you normally eat. Nutrition is nutrition. Nutrients are nutrients. Just get them in you, right? Is that right? Correct, Anthony?
Especially oncologist, nutritionalist, and they said the same thing.
Yeah. And you know what? Here's the thing. We're pretty professional here. My oncologist has been great. I was blessed to have a great oncologist, and I tell him about my regimen and everything I do. Okay. I tell him about that right from the start. He doesn't agree with me, but he doesn't disagree with me. But there's also another oncologist that I've heard that works in there, where from May 2022 to May 2023, I had this really good chemo friend. I sat beside him. And if you're listening, Andrew, shout out to you, Andrew. And Andrew had the other oncologist. So Andrew would listen to everything I'm doing, and then he asked his oncologist, and his oncologist shut everything down. He says, diet won't help. Supplements won't help. Naturopath won't help. Fasting won't help. He said that to him. And he said, I was a pharmacist before I was an oncologist, and I know science quite well. And he says, none of it helps. Okay. This oncologist is actually a nice guy. I'm not here to throw him under the bus, and I'm not mentioning names or anything. But, sometimes I think Kendi Berry says it as it is. It's absolute ignorance sometimes. That sometimes these professionals, they don't know everything, and they make these statements. And Kendi Berry, he's the one that says, if someone's telling you the wrong information, get a new doctor. That's what Kendi Berry always says. And I'm gonna ask him that next week when I'm on with him, because I love the way Kendi Berry's not shy about it. Okay, and it's not sometimes it's not their fault. It's the way they've been trained in medical school to not know. Okay. Anyways, Anthony, before we continue on, I just want to take a look at some of the chat, and I want to bring up, this is one of my favorites, Sandra. I want to say hello to you. And she writes this comment. It's so true, Jeff. Let's not make food our number one thought all day long. That's easy to do when you're addicted to carbs. 100%, Sandra, I agree with you. When you're addicted to carbs, and that's why some of those people, when they're receiving chemo, they're addicted. They need to eat. They need to eat all day long. Here I am at chemo on a Wednesday, and I haven't eaten since Sunday night, and I don't eat till Friday. Okay. And the volunteer that comes around with the cookies, they know me. Oh, Jeff, I know you haven't eaten for 2 days. I go, no, I don't want it. Right. Because a lot of these people are addicted. They're addicted to carbs. Okay. And they need to keep eating throughout the day. So I also, Sandra, I think I have like a Canadian accent because she likes to remind me when I say things wrong. It's regimen. But sometimes when my fast speaking, it sounds like regiment. I'm pretty sure I'm saying regimen, but yeah, it's probably my Canadian accent that you're having a hard time understanding. All right. But as a military unit of group troops, hey, we can definitely be your regiment, Jeff. You definitely are my regiment, Sandra. And she told me also that I met you for a reason, Anthony. So I think I did meet you for a reason. And
I agree.
She's very faith-based, believing in God and Christ. And I believe Christ brought me to you as well, Anthony. So there's a few other people I want to bring up here. Peter's got to do a better job starting things here. Peter, I'm gonna write up my employee here. Hey, this one's a good one, Peter, because we met her tonight. Jeff is a living legend, transforming lives. Not that comment. It's the Kingdom Way Keto. She came from Niagara Falls, which, Anthony, it's a good over an hour away to get to Brantford, my hometown. You know Niagara Falls. You've heard of Niagara Falls, right? That's where she lives.
Yeah.
So this is Kathy, and she was new tonight. And she's been a carnivore for, I think she's told me 3 years, and she's been keto for 15 years. And she's full of energy, this woman, Kathy, and she's so positive. I loved it. She was talking to this other woman. Her name's Pat, and she was telling Pat about, because Pat's the one that was carnivore months ago and then stopped, and then she's trying to get back on the horse of being carnivore. Well, anyways, Kathy said, you are carnivore starting tonight. And she says, and I'm going to call you in 2 weeks and check in on you. So she's very positive. She's a good leader. I love that about you, Kathy. So thanks a lot. Let's see. This person, Kathy Ronson, Dr. Barry is awesome. Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it too. I can't wait. Just thinking, I'm going to take some of these comments down. If anybody has questions for Anthony and I, thanks, Peter. You regained your excellence. He took it down without me doing it. That's great. If anybody has any questions, especially my son, Peter, he's starring all the good comments, but he's also starring, if you put QQQ in front of it, he can easily see that it's a question for Anthony and I. So Anthony, there's a few other things with chemotherapy that we get told, okay? One of them, and I'm going to bring it up, and maybe this will make you think of something that you got told. My first two lines, the fall fury and the faux fox, they told me to stay out of the sun. They told me big time, stay out of the sun. Your skin's gonna be sensitive. You're gonna burn easily. What do we know about being carnivore? Carnivores don't burn too easily, right, Anthony? I think
very hard to get burnt.
It's very hard to get burnt. You have to be out in the sun pretty much all day long. Okay. And I'm not saying it's carnivore. I firmly believe from all the research I'm doing and watching Dr. Eric Berg and listening to Dr. Anthony Shafee, eliminating the plant toxins help a lot. So for the first 2 years, and if anybody wants to explore my channel, Blessings on a Journey, they'll see a couple times I had some getaways with my family where they see me exercising on the beach in Fort Lauderdale with my shirt off. I'm nice and tan, and I'm in the middle of chemo. Okay, like I would have chemo like the week before I went to Florida, and then I'd have chemo the week after, but I'd be exercising. And vitamin D is really, really important. So me eliminating the sun was a problem, and it didn't affect me. I actually tanned better than ever. People would say, hey, they can't believe I'm on chemo. You know what I mean? So I kind of defied the odds in terms of what a chemo patient is supposed to look like and supposed to act like. And I really think it is my regimen, Sandra, that's what I'm saying. I think it's my regimen that I've been doing that has helped with that a lot. Okay. What about you, Anthony? Is there anything that they told you? Oh, I just remembered something, but I'm going to go to you right now. Is there anything that they told you that you shouldn't be doing when you're on chemo?
So I was told the same thing. You got to be out of the sunlight because even it's in pill form, the side effects were still like bottle form. We shared a lot of the same side effects.
Yes.
But so I was told everything from stay out of the sun to I can't even pick up dog poop. Because
Yes.
because for whatever reasons the toxins in the dog poop and chemo makes your immune system even weaker. I'm not sure. But so I was told all kinds of wild things we weren't allowed to do. And I listened to it, and during chemo, of course, with my poor diet and no vitamin D at that time, I was not doing very well. And what was the other thing I was going to say? Man, I'm drawing a brain fart.
No,
They
Anthony,
told me that. Go ahead.
No, you just reminded me of something, and hopefully this spawns on some memory for you too. But you just reminded me about picking up dog poop. They told me, go home and rest. Go home and don't lift things. Take it easy. Okay, you have other people do things for you, which is the total opposite of what we should be doing, right? Because we know the benefits of exercise. We talked about that a few episodes ago, in terms of how we have to keep our especially be on the carnivore diet, getting a good amount of fat and protein, and rebuilding our cells, especially our muscle cells. We have to be doing things, okay, which is going to help fight the cancer. And there's a good episode, I want to shout this out, on Disney Plus by it features Chris Hemsworth, Thor, and he talks about the importance of exercise to fight diseases. Okay, so that's one thing. You know what? Again, I listened to them my first 3 rounds because I wasn't on the carnivore diet, I wasn't fasting, I wasn't taking these supplements, and I went home and I lied there for the first 3 rounds. But after I built my regimen and I started to exercise and do things, Kerry Mann even said this. He said, when he came to visit me, I'm cutting my grass, I'm cutting my own grass, and I have a bigger property, and my shirt's off, and I'm doing push-ups, and I'm working out with my sons and stuff like that. So again, something they told me not to do, I think, and I am doing. Okay. They also told me, and you do have to be careful because your immune system gets shot. Okay. But they warn me about being in crowded spaces, wear masks. I do know we were coming out of the pandemic. I get it. Okay. But I've built a good supplement regimen that vitamin D3, vitamin Bs, zinc, K2, all those electrolytes that are keeping my immune system strong, right? Along with the carnivore diet, which I'm getting the maximum amount of nutrients, which they don't understand. So Anthony, I think when they're telling these patients not to go in the sun, not to exercise, be careful in crowded spaces, they're talking about the general person that is on the standard American diet, that has shot immune system, that maybe is not fit. But you know what? Is that fair to them? I don't know.
So, I think I agree with that 100%. That applies to everybody that's got the standard American diet and the mindset to not change. I think that if a person actually has the will to, fight and understand the illness, because all cancers are slightly different with mutations. I mean, they all have the same fuel source, or the vast majority have the same fuel source, like we've learned from Professor Sidfree, glucose and glutamine. But it still goes to the person to apply themselves to beat their illness. And even in my case, mine's DNA driven. I could still mutate my DNA through lifestyle and supplement choices to, put it to bed, so to speak. But to flash back about another thing the doctors told me with chemo is I was told I'm supposed to be on chemo the rest of my life till I die, because with my type of cancer, there's no way to go into remission. With GIST cancer, you go into NED, which is no evidence of disease, being how mine's DNA driven. But here we are, 16 months, 15 months, no treatment. And I'm now at for every 7.5 milliliters of blood, I have 0 tumor cells. So that means I have no new growth. And I used to be at 1 tumor cell per 7.5 milliliters of blood. So it was growing. It used to, now it's not.
That's amazing, Anthony. And I don't. It's really defeating when you have someone tell you that you have to be on chemo the rest of your life, right? And you can't go into remission. I'm the same thing. I'm incurable. People see me, Anthony, and they say, "You're in remission, right?" I'm sure they probably say the same thing to you, right? Because you look great. You're in the best shape of your life, right? You know what? Right now, because of this cetuximab and the skin toxicity, and this is the only time I have to be careful with the sun now because of the new one, but I'm testing it still. I'm still testing it because I know I need the vitamin D, but I'm in the best shape of my life. But I don't think people get it. They think I'm cancer free. Okay. I'm incurable. Okay. That doesn't mean I'm going to stop living. Daily. I'm fighting for my life daily. Okay. And this is where I think, you know what? I don't know. Sometimes we live in a cynical world where people like to judge people all the time, Anthony. And, sometimes, people think, I know in my hometown, there's people that think, does he even have cancer? He's off work. He's getting paid. What's going on? They don't know. They don't know my life. They don't know your life, Anthony. What we think of when we go to sleep at night, what we think of when we wake up in the morning, it's there. Our terminal illness is still there, right? So I pray, if there's one thing, I know Sandra's listening here and there's a bunch of faithful people, I pray that we stop, and I know it's innately we're human beings, but we have to stop judging people, right? And just because Anthony and I look great, this is how humans are supposed to look, right, Anthony? We're supposed to look like this. We're supposed to act like this, right? So, that's the one thing, my hope. And I know our good friend Dwight, if he comes on earlier, that's his hope for the human race too, is that we all can feel like this, feel optimal, right? I'm not saying I don't have my bad days. I had a bad day yesterday, okay? Well, not the best day, where, I felt a little bit bloated. My digestion wasn't the greatest. I felt a little bit fatigued, okay? Maybe it was something I ate. Maybe it was my stage 4 cancer. Because I am living with that, right, people? So, that's the one thing I just want to say before we move on. Anthony, you got anything to add in there?
I have my bad days too. One day last week, I was actually in a Zoom meeting with somebody. Luckily, it wasn't a live one with you. And in the middle of the Zoom meeting, out of nowhere, I got sick. I started ralphing.
Yeah, absolutely.
Could have been something I ate, which I've ate the same thing for 11 months now. So I know it wasn't that, or it could have been the cancer. It could have been the heat. Who knows? But just because we look good doesn't mean we always consistently feel good. I mean, I feel good most of the time, but we all have our bad days, whether we're healthy or not.
Yeah. You know what? Tonight, with my carnivore meetup, Anthony, we talked about this and how good we feel. And that new couple that came, they were talking about the success. Like the one woman lost some weight. Her husband eliminated his anxiety. So, physically and mentally, they feel great. So we were talking about that, right? And I spoke up and said, guys, I've been 27 months diagnosed with stage 4 terminal cancer. Okay. And for the most part, I have felt amazing. Imagine I didn't have cancer and I switched to this lifestyle that I'm on right now. Like, I can't even imagine what I would feel like, because I'm eating a proper, right? If we didn't have cancer, Anthony, and we were doing what we're doing right now, proper human diet, exercise, even the stuff I've learned about supplements, right? And exercise, and I fast, and I know you probably intermittent fast, right, Anthony?
Intermittent, yeah.
We learned that. So if we were doing these things and we didn't have cancer, we'd feel like superheroes, right? Because we're feeling so pretty darn good right now. Here's the thing right now that someone's popped up, and I had to look it up, and I had my son Peter show me a photo. This is Marv, and I'm assuming you're from the U.S. there. Have you looked at histotripsy at all, Jeff. And Peter showed me an image of it, but my good friend Sandra tells me it's ultrasound treatment, right? I think it looks something like that. I haven't looked at it. I'm going to look into it. Thank you for bringing that up. Going to bring up another comment here. I was told I couldn't change cat litter. Toxic for 72 hours after chemo. So couldn't wash my clothes with kids' clothes and no. Okay, that's a good point. Carnivore Cancer and CrossFit, My Journey. I'll have to check out that channel. You got a cool name. I like it. But yeah, Anthony, that's another thing that reminds me, when you have chemo, it is very, very toxic. This is something that people are like, hey, when are you going back to work? Especially when I had the bottle attached to me. I'm like, I have the most toxic chemical going in my body, okay, for like 3 days. I don't think I'm going back to work anytime soon, because you have to be really careful, right? You can't, you know, I try to use I use a toilet, and my sons and my family and my wife, they use another toilet, because especially for that first 72 hours, it is very, very toxic. Okay. So you have to, that is one truth about chemo, how toxic it is. You have to be very, very careful. Okay. Anything to add on there, Anthony?
Chemo and
yes.
So I don't know how many people know this or not, at least if you have your own septic system at home. If you're on chemo, whether it's tank style like Jeff's on or a pill form like I was on, any type of chemo that you're on and you're using your toilet at home, you need to be putting some type of chemical in your septic tank so you don't burn out your septic. Yeah. Luckily, my dad opened up. My father, luckily, my stepdad opened up the lid one day during my chemo treatment to check on his filters. And mind you, he did septic work for many, many years. And when he opened up the lid, all the feces and everything else had a glow to it, and it never used to. So the chemical in chemo eats all the bacteria in the septic and makes it hard, which is going to burn up your tank, your motors and stuff. So you actually have to be really careful when you're on your own sewer system at home.
Wow, I have it's a septic system. It's called a treatment system as well, as opposed to like a city sewer system. And I didn't know that, Anthony. So yeah, I'm gonna have to look into making sure
I'll ask my dad what chemical I need, what chemical it is, and I'll let you know.
Sure. That sounds good. This is just Marv saying about that last treatment that they asked me. The histotripsy, Marv says it rips apart the cancer cells with focused ultrasound or something like that. I'll definitely look that up. I'm sure Anthony will too. So thank you for suggesting that. Have you heard about Joe Tippin's cancer protocol? Yes, I definitely have. And that is one of the reasons why I started fenbendazole. Joe Tippin's, if anybody's listening, he's been cancer-free for quite some time, probably 5 years, I think. But he embedded fenbendazole along with a lot of other things like curcumin, CBD, vitamin E, I believe. Yes, I have. And I've embedded some of those things as well. And I do feel, and like I said, from that drastic shrinkage that I had from getting home from Italy, switching to this treatment, and getting a scan on May 30th. And by the way, I'm going to do one more round next week and then get another scan. And I'm feeling pretty good. And when I'm feeling pretty good, I think I know what results I'm going to get. But the fenbendazole that I'm taking, I got a real good brand. Comes from Europe. It's called Fenben, and it's 444 mgs, which is the same amount that you should be taking if you are trying to fight cancer. And I believe that's what Joe Tippins was taking. Looking at scanning here. Okay, we're going to move on, Anthony, to the next topic. This is, wow, I didn't think we were going to have enough to talk about tonight. I don't know if Medicine Man Dwight's going to come on or not, but hopefully he will. I'm going to come back to my banners, and Peter's going to keep managing the chat and let me know. But I'm going to come back to my banners, and I'm going to pull up my Naturopath. And I'm just going to give a shout out here. So when I first started chemotherapy in May 2022, you know, Dwight started sending me videos, started getting me intrigued with the diet and fasting and supplements. That's all my best friend Dwight. He got me going on those three things for sure. Okay. But then, you know, you hear people, and Anthony, I'm sure you can attest to this too. People start coming up to you and going, hey, have you looked into the natural way or the natural path, or trying this, or trying high dose vitamin C, or trying that, right, Anthony? I'm sure you've had a lot of people come up to you since you had cancer and say that.
Oh yeah.
So I looked into it, and I, you know what, when I look into something, when I do something, I try to do what I think is going to be the best for me. Okay. And I think the best for me is this individual that I have on the screen. He's about an hour from my hometown, Anthony. His name's Dr. Reed, Dr. Michael Reed. He's in Kitchener, Ontario, and his clinic is called Health Source Integrative Medical Center. And he's a naturopath doctor, but he really specializes in oncology, working with oncology. Okay. He's not one of those, because there's different types of naturopaths. Now, I'm not going to say Dr. Reed, if I said to him, Dr. Reed, I'm going to quit chemo, I'm going to go the natural way, he would support me. He would. And he knows that I'm trying to attack this metabolically, a metabolic approach. Okay. But he also is very, very keen on working with oncology, working with your chemo patient, working with your radiation patient, working with whatever standard of care that you're getting and making that standard of care better. Okay, so this is my naturopath, and you're going to talk about your naturopath in a second, Anthony. But I just want to pop up what I get from my naturopath and what I've gotten over the past 2 years. So like I said, after my third round of chemo, when I started embedding diet, fasting, and exercise, because my friend Dwight, people told me that I need to go to naturopath. I researched, I went to Dr. Reed. And the reason why I went to him, that first thing up there, local regional hyperthermia, local regional hyperthermia. I talk about this a lot. Hyperthermia, not hyper, because hyper is heat, hypo is cold, hyperthermia. Okay. And don't mistake it for hyperbaric, because that's another treatment that I've embedded. So hyperthermia, if you look up hyperthermia in Europe, in a lot of countries, this is part of standard of care for cancer patients. Okay. The local regional. So Dr. Reed purchased this machine from Germany, okay, years ago. All right. And I've done videos with me in it. If you go into some of my videos, I think there's a video called Shutdown Treatment where I go to the Bahamas with my wife back in January, and I come back and I'm actually hooked up to the hyperthermia machine, and I'm talking about how I had a great time in Bahamas. But anyways, you can see me on the hyperthermia machine. It's a water bed, and this probe comes down on your abdomen. Okay. And they isolate it to my colon and my liver. But if you have lung cancer, they can put the probe on your lung cancer, wherever. Okay. And basically it heats up the chemo. It heats up the chemo, and the chemo attacks the cancer cells a lot. They target the cancer cells better by heating up the chemo. And it's kind of like a microwave, really. It gets up to about 150 watts. But like I said, it's mainstream in Germany. And that's one of the reasons why I went to Dr. Reed. Here in Ontario, there's only 2 in the whole province of Ontario. In Canada, there's only like 5 of these machines. Okay. And there's actually people from the US, from Michigan and Buffalo, that actually go to Dr. Reed in Kitchener because, for one, they don't have it in their state in the US, or it's too expensive. I hear it's too expensive in the States. It's very expensive. I'm not going to lie. My hyperthermia visits, and by the way, this is what I do for local regional hyperthermia. When I get my chemo on Wednesday, all day, it's a long day. Right away, I drive out of town. I leave the hospital in Brantford where I get my chemo. I drive to Kitchener for hyperthermia. Okay. And I get an hour of hypothermia. Heats up the chemo after it's been pumped into me all day. Then, because I used to have a bottle, on the Friday, 2 days later, okay, I would, before I get my bottle removed, my chemo bottle removed, I'd go back on the Friday for hyperthermia again. So twice on my chemo week. All right. And by the way, it is expensive. Okay. And you can look up the price yourself, but, you know, a couple times, you know, you got to make sure that you can afford to do something like this. Okay. I think it's roughly around $400 a session, which is tough. And I understand why people can't do it. Okay. Because it's very, very expensive, but it's mainstream in a lot of countries. So I continue to do this hyperthermia. This is the one thing I'm not taking out, because I've done a lot of my research on it. I know it's mainstream in Europe. So this is not something I'm taking out. Even though I don't have the bottle, because now when I leave the hospital, I can't stand that chemo bottle, by the way. I don't have it. So good thing about the cetuximab and the irinotecan, I don't have to leave with the 5FU bottle. When I go there on Wednesday for hyperthermia, and then I do still go there on Friday. And it makes sense because they say the chemo is the strongest the first 2 days anyways. So that's why you want to make sure you're heating up your chemo. It actually mimics a certain surgery, actually. I don't know if, Anthony, if you heard this surgery for people that have organ cancer. I think it's called HIPEC or something. I'm probably saying it wrong. HIPEC surgery, where it's a crazy surgery. I've had a friend that had it, actually, where they remove all your organs, they place it on a table, they pour hot chemo on top of your organs, and then they return everything back in. So this hyperthermia mimics, in obviously a lower rate, mimics this HIPEC surgery, okay, in terms of heating up the chemo. High dose vitamin C is something I did for that first year with mistletoe. I had mistletoe in the bag, and I couldn't believe I was getting mistletoe. And Anthony, I know you're going to talk about it in a second, but I was like, whoa, does this mean my wife's going to kiss me more getting this mistletoe? Because that's the only thing I thought mistletoe was for at Christmas time. You hang it over a doorway, you know what? You might have a romantic evening of that, right? But anyways, mistletoe, I guess, has some very toxic chemical compounds that can fight cancer as well. So I was getting that in my vitamin C infusion, okay? The thing is, then I switched to subcutaneous mistletoe. Everybody can see it on the screen. I'm going to get Anthony to talk about that. I did subcutaneous mistletoe last summer, and that allowed me not to go to my naturopath because I had a break from chemo and I wanted a break from my naturopath too, which I probably shouldn't have. But anyways, he gave me vials, and I'll have Anthony talk about that in a second. Supplements, I do get curcumin from him. There was a deep immune I was taking. It's a mushroom extract. I'm not really taking that anymore. And I used to take wheat germ. I stopped taking that. The more and more, like wheat germ, I just think it's too much carbs and plants. Okay. So I axe that myself. Okay. I know a lot of my supplements are made for plants, but I'm going to pick and choose the plants that I'm using as medicine. As medicine man Dwight always says, he does believe plants are good. There are, when we need them for medicine, not for food, for medicine. So I'm going to pick and choose those things. So that's what I'm going to my naturopath doctor for. Anthony, do you want to explain, do you have a naturopath doctor? What do you go to that naturopath doctor for?
Actually, I have two naturopath doctors, but I had to stop seeing one because of insurance reasons. So now I see his partner, in his office. But I've been seeing a naturopath since September of 2023, as far as just for the cancer stuff. I had seen him prior to, but I didn't let him have any reins for cancer yet because I was wanting Western medicine to have its shot first. Because I never had a thought process of trying to do Western medicine and naturopath at the same time. So my naturopathic doctor is over in Linwood, Washington. So it's about a 2-hour drive from my house to their house or their office. And so they offered me the whole vitamin C infusion spiel like you did, but I don't have the funds to drive 2 hours all the time to go sit in office. So we had talked and they decided to put me on the subcutaneous mistletoe. So subcutaneous means you shoot it into the fat layer of your skin, not into the muscle. And the mistletoe, like Jeff said, it's a natural plant, has some natural poison into it, and I don't know all the ingredients that they put into mistletoe, but there is some man-made ingredients in there, like some endorphins to make you feel a little bit better. Some of the side effects, you're supposed to run a little bit warmer temperature-wise. The worst side effect I deal with is the pinprick of the needle itself. I had to face my fear of needles. But I thought, hey, if a diabetic could do it, I could do it. So September of 23 till now, which is that 9-10 months of being on mistletoe now, I started out with 5 milligram doses, and now I am buying it in 50 milligram doses, and I am taking half at a time. So my dose is 25 milligrams at a time, as far as the dose. And that is, oh goodness, I do that Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, or 3 days a week. And I hate needles, man, but I feel good on it, and I've been having luck controlling my cancer with the Mistletoe and Carnivore combo with some supplements and, of course, exercise. And so I have been brave enough. I have not been brave enough to stop Mistletoe and continue just Carnivore and supplements. At this point, I just kind of keep doing Mistletoe and Carnivore because it's working. I have a hard time stopping what works.
No, absolutely, Anthony. And the Mistletoe, because I've done both, and I had success with the IV, because that was when I had 5 scans in a row of shrinkage my first year. But then I took a break and I did what you're doing, the subcutaneous Mistletoe. And the reason why I stopped it, I was taking it last summer, and did you do 4 quadrants, Anthony? Like Monday, you would put it here, Tuesday, the next quadrant, or Wednesday, then Friday, and then Monday again, like all 4 quadrants of your abdomen? Is that where you're injecting?
I bounce back and forth depending where it's sore and where it's not sore. Yeah.
Yeah. So would you get like a red mark and kind of inflamed, right? A little bit itchy sometimes where the injection site was. Yeah.
I don't get the itch, but I definitely get the red mark, and it sucks.
Yeah, the red mark, and I was getting the itch, and I guess that's just the sign of it working. If the red mark got too big, I was supposed to tell my naturopath. It didn't get too big. I think there is some power in that, what you're doing. I stopped it because last summer, I went back after my father passed away, and I had a little bit of progression, and then they thought the first line would stop working. So that was coming off of like some bad news kind of. So I stopped it for that reason. But I can see myself probably, especially if, and I know Sandra and other people that are listening to this, if I decide to stop chemotherapy and go at it just truly what I believe in, that is something I think I'll add in like you're doing again, Anthony. Definitely I'll add in the vitamin C in the future. And I didn't mind. I actually preferred to get the Mistletoe through the vitamin C. So I think I was successful with it. So this is the thing, Anthony, you said something. I'm not going to stop something that's working, right?
Yeah.
That you're having success with, right? And that's the thing. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. Okay. You can't listen to Jeff DeProsperous or Anthony Haydock speak and go, okay, I'm going to follow exactly what Jeff DeProsperous did, or I'm going to follow exactly what Anthony Haydock did, or I'm going to follow exactly what Joe Tippins did. You have to, the biggest thing is you have to take this in your own hands. Carrie Mann says this all the time. Take this in your own hands and you take control. Take control of your life, everybody listening, okay? Especially if you're going through what Anthony and I are going through. And if you take control of your own life and you do your research, I'm going to take a few things from Anthony. I already have been since I met him, okay? I'm going to take a few things from Joe Tippins. I'm going to take a few things probably from Kendi Berry next week. Okay, there's not one protocol or regimen that I think works for everybody. But the main thing is take control of your life, have a positive mindset, do your research, surround yourself with the right people. What do you think, Anthony?
That's well said. We're all slightly different. It's our own job to apply ourselves to figure out what works best for us, because nobody knows how Jeff feels minus Jeff, or how Anthony feels minus Anthony, or how Sandra feels. It's our own job to figure that out.
Yes, absolutely.
Here's my friend
easy. Sandra. It's not always easy. That would be awesome, Jeff. Definitely go out in the sun. I do love the sun. And by the way, people, because Eric Berg says it, Dr. Peter Osborne says it, a lot of these doctors on YouTube say it. We don't need to fear the sun. You want to fear getting burnt. Burnt is a problem. Yes, can lead to skin cancer. But you don't want to fear the sun. You don't want to be lathering yourself up in these suns. You want vitamin D. Vitamin D is probably, if all the supplements that I take, and I'm going back from episode 1, okay, vitamin D is the very, very most important. Okay, here's QQQ. Do you have any advice to relieve neuropathy? Okay, thank you both for helping us. Bless you both. Felicia, neuropathy, I get it, okay? Anthony, did you get any neuropathy from your chemo?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so
Bad.
your fingers and your toes in the cold. Now, and you know what I was doing through the whole thing too? Because I had a stubborn mind because I knew it was good for me. I was cold plunging with my Wim Hof instructor. So I was going into the cold plunge and just not only would it be in my fingers and toes, it would go all the way up my legs because I'm in this 4-degree water. Okay, where I was fighting it. Now I don't know if that was good or bad what I did, but anyways, medicine man Dwight said to me, "What's causing the neuropathy?" And I would say to him, "It's this oxaliplatin. It's the ingredient in Fofox." He goes, "No, it's not." I would go, "What, Dwight? What do you mean? It's not. No, it's not that causing neuropathy. It's what the oxaliplatin is doing to your cells. It's depleting you of all your essential vitamins and minerals. This chemo is so toxic, especially the oxaliplatin. It's so toxic, and it really has an effect on your B vitamins. And your B vitamins really affect your neurons, okay, especially neuropathy. They really affect it, okay. So you got to make sure you're supplementing. That's the one thing I can say, Felicia. You got to make sure you're taking your vitamin Bs. I take a B100 complex. I take a B12. I take a folate, which is a B9. Okay, you got to make sure you're replenishing. And carnivore diet, I don't think is enough for someone that is going through chemo, especially oxaliplatin. But a lot of the chemos, Anthony's chemo, even my first line chemo, even the chemo I'm on right now, even though it's not oxaliplatin, I still want to make sure that I'm getting all my Bs, my D, especially keep my immune system strong. That's going to help with neuropathy for sure. Okay. Hopefully that helped there, Felicia. Anthony, we've been on for like an hour and 16 minutes. This is pretty good. Just you and me. I think we could probably stay on for a little bit longer.
We have a lot to talk about always. And to go off of Felicia's thing about neuropathy, yes. What I also did, not only did cold plunging, cold therapy help quite a bit. Sauna therapy, the heat cycles, hot and cold bath, just to get your circulation to force it to work.
That's absolutely right, Felicia. Yeah, I don't think Anthony and I are really sure. Like, Anthony and I are a little bit, I don't know what to say, Anthony. We're a little bit crazy and stubborn in terms of going into cold plunging, right? But I don't expect everybody to do that. And I don't know if it might even make it worse, but the sauna, like Anthony said, definitely would make it better. Because when I was on my line 2, oxaliplatin, Fofox, I actually went to Florida after Christmas with my family and then Bahamas with my wife for a special trip. I had no neuropathy there. Then I get back in Ontario, I step off the airplane, oh my goodness, and I step into the cold and I get neuropathy. So surrounding yourself with heat as much as possible would definitely help with neuropathy. Okay. Anything else there, Peter, for comments? No, we're looking good. Anthony, I think we're going to close off the night. I just want to say, before I say goodbye to everybody and you say goodbye to everybody, we're looking forward. I'm super excited that you're expanding your YouTube venture with Carrie Mann. Okay. And the reason why I'm excited for you, and I know you're going to be like, after next week, you're going to come back on with me and we're going to get back to our normal routine, but we need to get the word out. We need to get the word out, people, about what Anthony's doing, about what I'm doing. Okay. So Anthony, you're gonna be on Carrie's channel, and Carrie has a huge subscriber list. Okay. And this is the whole purpose. This is the whole purpose of it, is healing humanity. We want to help heal humanity. That's the documentary that Carrie is putting together. So I'm really proud of you, Anthony, that you're going on with Carrie. He's great.
You're gonna shirt too from him.
Yeah. Well, that's what you got to say. You got to say, send me a shirt for sure. All right. So then the next time you and I are on, we can wear matching shirts, right? Together.
Yeah.
And next week I'm on with Kendi Berry, and it's going to be on my channel. And I'm hoping that, people from his channel watch it. So, because Kendi Berry has a big subscriber list, and anybody that's listening tonight, and not only listening tonight, people that are listening, because I never really do this. I'm not like some people that say they have the subscribe button all over their screen, subscribe or like or whatever. Because I'm doing this to help others. So everybody tells me that when they find someone that's sick or they get sick or they know, they need to send my channel to them. That's what I want. That's what I want. I want people to listen to what I'm going through, pick up some little things from me that they can maybe embed in their life or have any questions for me. I want to help others. That's the reason for my channel. So anybody listening to this right now live or afterwards, send it on to people that need a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, because hopefully I can do it. And hopefully even listening to Anthony there, if anybody wants to get in contact with you, Anthony, they can probably get in contact you through me, and then I'll hook them up with your contact. Okay. So, because that's what we're here for. We're here to help others. I firmly believe that. I think that's our calling in life. I think medicine man Dwight, he says it all the time. It's to give people hope. Okay. You don't need to listen to your doctor and say, hey, you have 2 months to live. You're terminally ill. This chemo is just going to maintain quality of life for a little bit of time. You don't have to listen to that. You can take things into your own hands, create your own hope, and create your own journey. Right, Anthony?
Yeah. And even if you are, declining, you can still feel good declining. It's about truly feeling the best you can. And more often than not, you're not going to decline feeling the best you can.
Absolutely. That actually makes a lot of sense, Anthony, for sure. Okay, so everybody, again, you're going to look for Carrie Mann's episode with Anthony Hayduck. It's a pre-record next week. I am live, and I just got to make sure I say this. It's not at 9 p.m. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern, which is probably like 3 p.m. for you, Anthony. So maybe you can tune in where in your neck of the woods. But I'm going to be with Kendi Berry. I'm very, very excited for next Tuesday. It's at 6 p.m. And then after that, we're going to get back into being on our 9 p.m. or your 6 p.m. if you're from Anthony's channel, but 9 p.m. Eastern, we'll get back to that. Some future episodes coming up. Like I said, next week is my YouTube doctor, Kendi Berry. I'm going to have my Wim Hof instructor for Wim Hof, sauna, and cold plunge talk about that. I'm going to have an episode on hyperbaric oxygen treatment. And then I might be cycling through some other things. We might come back to supplements. We might come back to diet. We might I was actually thinking of having kind of a carnivore meetup on YouTube, a night where it's called, because part of my regimen is also surrounding yourself with the right people. I'm not saying I can't surround myself with vegans. Okay, I can. Okay, but it just so happens, surround yourself with the right people that support you in what you're doing, and you'll live the best life you can. All right, that's it, Anthony. Thank you again, and I hope everybody has a great night. Thanks to my son Peter too. He's in the background.
Thanks for having me again tonight. Good night,
All right.
everybody.
Take care. Ciao. Ciao.